Pensado's Place is brought to you by...
You're going to meet a real master of the studio. We've got a brand new contest. We're going to announce a winner and brand new ITLs. Yay. You're at the place. It's Pensado's Place.
Can't wait to get going with the show, so I'm going to jump right in. I just finished rereading my signed copy of Ken Scott's book, Abbey Road to Ziggy Stardust. It's incredible. I really, really enjoyed it. As an engineer, I thought it was fascinating. Check that out. Joe Barisi, our buddy Herb, he's got a new DVD out, Mixer Man, of course, and then it's just been kind of an educational, work my little handsome ass off all week.
Which means you're behind on your mixing.
That's why I referred to the ass. Metaphorically speaking, the behind is behind.
Well, we're always glad to improve the sort of cerebral curve. As usual, we're coming to you live from the Art Institute of California in Los Angeles, and live if you're watching now. If you're watching on YouTube, it's not live, but it's still coming from the Art Institute of California in Los Angeles.
If it's not live, what is it?
It's not dead, so it's something else. Make sure you get to our social media stuff, Twitter, Facebook, our YouTube channel. You know that drill. Make sure you contact us, like, subscribe. We'll get back to you. And by the way, we do see your requests. We do try to get to them. We're just jammed, and we will get to them eventually. That's really valuable. Let's say hello to our Vintage King folks. Vintage King, hey.
Chefster.
We love Chefster. We love our Vintage King guys. We got Jeff Leibovich in the chat room, so get your questions there. Do you have a... Stump the Jeff question?
You know, I don't.
Okay. Cool. So you're free this week, Jeff. Don't worry about it. We're going to rock and roll.
Those Vintage King guys are so sharp. I haven't stumped them in a year. Why keep trying?
Yeah, well, because we will.
That was pretty good, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And exciting stuff from our Avid friends, our buddies at Avid. We love them. We have the winner this week.
Oh, this isn't mine?
No.
Oh,
no,
man.
Remember the contest rules. If you're a family member associated with the contest, you're not eligible.
I should be like first on the damn list.
No. We take it. Actually,
this is a very cool piece of gear, guys. I've actually played with it.
So this is the Fast Track C600 that Dave is doing the Vanna White with. Show the camera, Dave. Show it to folks. Very nice, very pretty. So anyways, the Avid C600 giveaway from our friends at Avid. We have a winner. Drum roll, please, Dave.
I'm a guitar player.
Is it a rhythm thing?
No, I'm a guitar player.
Okay, cool.
I'm a musician.
The winner is Todik Tarverdian. Todik Tarverdian, congratulations. He's from California. He is the winner of our Avid C600 giveaway. Congratulations. Use it in good faith in the best spirit of music. We are happy for you.
Todik, when you get it, send us an email and let us know how you like it.
Yeah, please tell us about it, Todik. Would be great. We'll use that. So congratulations to him. Congratulations and thanks to Avid for being so supportive. Another fun thing that we have is our Mix with the Masters program.
Yeah, if you watched last week's show, you'll know that I'm a pretty big fan of that program.
Yeah.
In fact, I'm going to participate, I think. But
absolutely.
As soon as you give me a damn day off, big pimping.
You won't be participating for about 3 or 4 years, but it's coming. That's not true. We are going to do that. So Victor and the guys over there have really been gracious, and they're providing free entry into this incredible program with Eddie Kramer. It's going to be October 1st through the 7th. There'll be other pros there besides Eddie Kramer. All you have to be responsible for, and this is important, you'll be responsible for your own travel. They'll take care of everything else. What a fantastic gift. This is the first time they've done it. This is south of France in a fabulous studio. You'll not only learn, you'll get better, and it's sort of one of those lifetime experiences. I say that because I've talked to other pros who are big guys who they feel that way when they do the program.
Manny, Brower, all the guys have been there. They have 2 control rooms, so they don't put everybody in one room. They kind of split it up, and you get personal attention. I'd like to do it. I'd like to know what, like Andy Wallace does a few.
Absolutely.
Andy won't be the person that for the giveaway because different people do different times. So I don't want to imply that, but Man, I'd pay the bucks just to sit in front of Andy.
Great program. So you enter that program at pensadosplace.tv/MWTM, mixed with the masters. pensadosplace.tv/MWTM. I learned that from you. Again, October 1st through 7th, Eddie Kramer and other pros. Great things, south of France. You got to do that. Whew.
Good job, Herb.
Lots of stuff. We got a great guest, huh?
Yeah, I'm like tongue-tied.
Introduce the ITL and let's get it rocking.
Oh, yeah, ITL. I like this week's ITL because it's applicable to a lot of different things. This is what could be described somewhat as a heavy metal band I worked on. I got about 8 guitars. I wanted you to kind of see how I thought about them, but it could be 8 synthesizers, 8 backgrounds, 8 bagpipes. You know, I do a lot of bagpipe stuff.
Yes, you do.
8 accordions, my favorite instrument. Let's see it, Will. Hey guys, this week I'm gonna show you what I did with a track that has a lot of guitars. Real cool track done by my friend Max Belladonna. The artist is Exilia, E-X-I-L-I-A. Incredible song. And the reason we chose this is because even though this is a guitar song, a pretty heavy song, the same process works for a bunch of keyboards, a bunch of background vocals, a bunch of bagpipes. In Will's case, he brought me a 20 kazoo band. So this works for a lot of different things. Let's jump right in. I'm gonna play the song. This is Satellite by Exilia, produced by my good friend Max Belladonna. So here's the finished product without vocals. All right, now before you change the channel, I caught you off guard, didn't I? Before you change the channel, I'm gonna show you these guitar parts. I got 8 guitars. It could have been 8 synthesizers, 8 background vocals. And let's go through the process of how to organize them and make them fit within the framework of what we're paid to do. Okay, here's the 8 parts right here. Now, I'll show you what they sound like combined, but let's start off with a guitar that I felt like was the foundation of them all. Now, what I wanted to make sure was that I got a lot of width on it and that I got the right sound to build off of. Next, what I did was I wanted the guitars to be a little wider, a little bigger, a little everything, you know, more is always better. So the next track I added was this guy here. If you notice dark essence on this track, that gives me a little more low end. And then I started kind of just filling in. I wanted a little more grind, and I realized that this grind track also gave me a nice width by using these delays. Very short, very tight delays. Not bad, we're getting there. But in this particular song, I wanted a little more buzz. So I found some buzz on this guy right here. The way Max works and the way a lot of guys work is they'll start with one sound, they like it, then they need a little bit more. So not every sound is supposed to contribute 100%. So Max is a top producer, and so it's my job to figure out exactly why he gave me those tracks. And it's pretty easy. You just listen to them and figure it out. Now, if this were a bunch of keyboards, it's the same thing. Sometimes one keyboard is contributing the wormy Moog sound, another one might be contributing the top end buzzy sound, particularly in the dance world, the EDM world. It's not unusual to get that many synths that combine to get one sound. So let's finish this off. There's a little single note riff. Excuse me. There's a little single note riff in there that you kind of hear. So everything else is basically just emphasizing that riff. Okay, we got a guitar sound. Now I wanted a bass sound, so let's listen to those two guys together. And this is what I came up with to get them to work together. Now, if we just listen to the bass, you'll notice I didn't want the bass to get into the guitar's territory. The guitar gives us the credibility. It helps us define what type of song it is. But the bass gives us power, and we needed that power to imply the power of the singer. This singer has an incredibly powerful voice, so if we had a little wimpy track, it's going to feel kind of odd. So I felt like, now in some types of music we get the power from the kick drum. In this song it's the bass. So let me show you what I did to the bass. Okay, these two are copies of each other. They're identical. This one I wanted to get the low end, so I rolled pretty much everything above 1.4K off. Let's see what that sounds like. And then I had to clean it up a little bit below 36. Then a little bit of EQ for that. We got our salt, let's add our pepper. Nice compressor. Like what the compressor has, it's pretty cool, huh? You know, it wouldn't be a Dave Pensado track if I didn't do something whack. So I just couldn't get the bass to be in my face. So I threw a little R bass on it. Added a little bit of limiter. But it still wasn't limiting enough, so I added another limiter after that limiter. This is America. This is America. If a little's good, more is better. The last compressor is adding a little bit of volume, so don't be fooled by the apparent kind of coolness of that. Okay, so now I experimented with this. I'm going to let you guys decide. I'm taking out a little bit of 130. I ultimately didn't use it, but I'm going to let you hear it, and you can decide if you like it or not. So let's hear it with the guitars. Now the guitars are pretty much there's not a whole lot below 200. In a more pop setting, I like I like taking that little bit extra 100 and change out, 138, 140. But I left it in because I wanted it to be. Didn't want this mix to sound like we were trying too hard, and so sometimes the edges and the warts can be a little rewarding. Okay, so remember, this is not just a guitar thing. This can be applied to any group of keyboards. So I'll leave you, and we'll fade out on the song. Hey guys, I hope you got something out of that. Remember, techniques are applicable across the whole recording spectrum, so it could be called a heavy metal record, but the same process is the same one I use on everything else I do, trying to figure out the essence of a part, and how to mix it and make it work with other parts, and how to get in the producer's mind and figure out what the vision was. But big shout out to Max Belladonna.
We like Max.
We love Max. Max is our guy.
Guy.
Max, good to hear from you yesterday. Okay, Kevin Augunas is our guest today, and one of the things I'm so happy to have Kevin on the show, because I think he embodies pretty much everything that's right about the recording profession. That's a broad statement, but Kevin isn't locked to any concept, any process, any particular way of doing things. He just tries to be a part of making great records in any way he can, whether it be owning a label, owning an incredible studio.
Incredible.
If I somehow were put in charge of designing heaven, I'd run down to his studio and kind of figure out and use that as a blueprint, as close as you can get. Kevin, thank you so much for being here, man.
Welcome, man.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for coming.
I can't wait to get started on the interview. You started out as a bass player up in New York, right?
Yeah, well, I grew up in San Francisco in the Bay Area and played around there for a bit, and then I went to college in Santa Barbara, and then eventually moved to Boston to attend Berklee for a couple years, and then I ended up in New York from there.
Wow. What percentage of what you do now is a function of the Berklee experience, would you say?
That's hard to say. I think I got a lot of things out of, I would say, being around the Berklee environment. I can't say I really work with anybody that I knew at Berklee, but I think I got a lot of things out of being there.
Sometimes just seeing that it can be done is helpful, because you can kind of, if somebody else did it, maybe you might be more apt to try something different.
Yeah.
What? I think I know the answer to this question, but I'd like for our audience to understand the process of what drew you into becoming a studio owner. Now, I know you don't think of yourself as a studio owner. It's a tool that you use to make records, and you make records by mixing, producing, and being the owner of the company. What drew you in that direction? Because me, I'm not drawn to want to be part of anything involving ownership of a studio.
Right. I think it just kind of happened and evolved over time. I started, like probably most people, I started recording in my bedroom. And then when I got older, and like you said, I started out as a kind of a session bass player, played in a lot of bands around New York. I'd go on tour with people. When I'd be home, I'd be in bands with friends around town. We didn't have much money, so we'd record all our demos either in our apartment or our rehearsal space. You start buying gear, and it just kind of evolves from there. And I really like to be in a specific environment when I'm working, and I think just for me personally, being in a commercial studio space is not super comfortable. I like my environment really specific. So it went from bedroom to turning a whole house into a studio to eventually having a building.
You run out of room, you have to have another place to
Yeah.
Get ready here, because this could be the dumbest question I've asked in 5,000 episodes.
It won't be.
Well, I'm not talking about future episodes. Of course it won't.
I'm reviewing.
Damn, big pimpin'. Why do people choose the bass? Because you only get to play one string, where I got to play 6. Is there some kind of psychological impediment that causes people to become bass players? I love the instrument. I love playing my bass. But I'm not fulfilled with one damn string at a time. Why would people choose the bass? Were you a not very good guitar player and that was a second choice?
I'm really, really not a good guitar player, so it never
By
was.
the way, I'm teasing you, but you don't have to answer that question. But gosh, it's so incredible. So many great musicians are bass players. Chacao, one of my heroes from Cuba growing up.
Yeah.
Wizard, Jocko, all the greats.
Yeah.
I'm forgetting a million of them. But
Yeah.
what drew you to the bass?
I don't know. I started taking bass lessons when I was about 5 years old, and
That could have been it.
I remember just asking my mom, I want to play the bass.
Wow.
For no specific reason. In hindsight, I have two little ones now, 6 and 3, and I'm hoping for them they start with the piano, because we all know that's kind of the mother of everything. You can.
But would you have been a different musician with different tastes had you started with the piano? Because I think the instrument you choose, like I still consider myself a failed guitar player rather than a successful engineer, if you could describe me successful.
Right. I don't know. I'm not sure.
Man, that's some Charlie Rose stuff right there, man.
Yeah. Sure.
I got too much sleep last night. But one of the cool things that a lot of people don't know, but the label, you talk about your label and some of the artists on your label.
Yeah, well, I run a little imprint label called Fairfax Recordings, and we have everything from Edward Sharpe and the Magnetic Zeros.
That's a good record.
Good band. Gautier, which is doing well this summer.
Just a little.
We had a band called J. Roddy Walsh in the Business, really wonderful band.
That's the band I like, right?
Yeah, that's the band you're talking about that you like.
Yeah, wow. I love
We
that
have
band.
a band we're just finishing a record for now called Red, Gold, Green that I'm really excited about. That was a really fun record to make.
Is the Lumineers record, is that on your label?
It's not. That's a record I just mixed for the band.
It's currently #1 on iTunes, isn't it?
It's up there. I'm not sure if it's #1 right now. I think it is in certain charts, maybe the folk chart.
I actually just read an article where they were talking about the success coming out of the AAA format, of which they mentioned two groups you're involved with. One was Lumineers and how well it was doing. It might have been #1 at that format, at the AAA format. Also Gautier, obviously, and my new favorite man crush, Ed Sheeran. And what was interesting about it, and I think is emblematic of kind of your ethos, is these are people who are not hewing to convention. They're doing something that they feel passionate about and putting it up and letting it work. Does that inform kind of what goes on with your recording studio, what you sign, what you like to work on?
Yeah, I like to, basically, when I sign a band, I like to look at it as, it's not that I don't care if it sells one record or a million, but I want to kind of have that passion about it. Like, I love this thing so much that if nobody else gets it like I get it,
It's still okay.
that's okay. I'll be fulfilled working on this record.
Yeah, it shows. I got to tell you, because just when we were doing the research, going through your website, I just couldn't get off the music. I was like, oh, I got way out of research and just into enjoying. Really great stuff. Kudos to your taste and the fact there's still people who are willing to take the shot. So many people are under duress to put it into that kind of corporate commercial, what radio's going to play or what EDM's doing or whatever. So to find this stuff was like a breath of fresh air. It's hard to get off.
It really was. And then you just moved your whole operation over to the studio in Van Nuys.
Right.
What was the old studio name? I can't remember.
Sound City.
Sound City.
Yeah.
Like when I first moved to LA, there were certain studios I wouldn't work at because I felt I wasn't worthy to walk in after the greats that had worked in there. Do you ever feel like that, the weight of Nirvana working in your studio, or Neil Young's great records?
Yeah. When I moved in there, just changing anything in the lobby or
like
repainting anything. Well, yeah, because I feel like that studio, even though I'm in that building right now, I really feel like that studio is kind of community property.
Absolutely.
It's kind of hollowed ground a little bit.
Absolutely.
So I just feel like I'm the momentary caretaker,
you know,
like just keep it in shape, make sure it stays intact.
Don't screw it up.
Enjoy it, don't screw it up. Yeah.
Exactly.
So let's jump into the real reason why you're on Pensado's place. Vintage King says that you probably have the greatest, highest quality collection of vintage gear of anybody they've ever seen, meticulously selected. And what was the other thing they said? It doesn't matter. But I was fascinated by that because I love gear. I don't know I just love gear, and sometimes I like it just because of really nice
I don't know, Dave.
knobs. Sometimes I buy it just because I like the knobs, but if plugins had knobs, I might not ever use gear again. Which is weird. On plugins, I don't like knobs. I like faders, but anyway, another story. So this is all part of a bigger, the gear and everything is it's not an end result as much as it's part of a desire and a want to do great music with great musicians to provide a place where they can feel comfortable and amplify their thoughts and their creativity through the gear rather than the gear being the end result. It's just, that's a really bad question. I'm not Charlie
No,
Rose
it's not
today.
a bad question.
So with your sort of extensive, your gear thing is a passion.
Right.
Right. It's clear it's a passion.
Already
Do you find that the artists search out your studio for that ability to access that kind of gear? And then the other thing I found is you work really hard to make sure the gear doesn't get in the way of the music.
All those things are true. And that's maybe a disappointment to you, but I've actually come full circle. I just finished getting rid of a lot of gear.
Did you really?
Yeah, because what I think everybody has their cycle and their perspective on things, but all those statements are true, and I've bought a lot of gear over the years and collected a lot of gear, and Vintage King's been amazing. Mike Neer has been a close friend for 15 years.
Yeah, they're great.
Very helpful. And everything I've had has been amazing in its own right. Anything from, there's times where I've owned, I don't know how many Fairchilds, or I had one of the consoles at Abbey Road for a while.
Right.
All these things are really incredible pieces of gear. And
You don't have that console anymore?
no, I don't. But what I found, and again, it's to each his own, but for me, it started becoming so much about the gear and less about the music, and that's never what I really wanted to do. So what I started doing was keeping the few things that I found were useful to me in music making, and I almost went for things that were a little more esoteric. So when musicians did walk in, because everybody's so informed these days, right? It's not like 30 years ago where the band didn't know anything. They didn't even come into the control room.
Right.
They just walked in and did their thing. Now everybody is curious on what you're using on their sound, which is great. But for me, having certain things I felt started to inhibit the actual music making process, where, for instance, if they saw a band would come in and see the EMI console at Abbey Road, and it would be, they'd already decide that their record's going to sound amazing because they're going to do it on the console that was in Abbey Road.
Right.
I just find that's kind of, you're already coming from
It's limiting.
yeah, you're coming from a negative place.
Right.
As opposed to having that feeling like, I don't know what kind of console that is, but we wrote great songs and we're going to play our hearts out.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah, because if you don't keep the essence pure, you're not going to end up with pure product.
Yeah, and people would see a Fairchild and be like, wow, my vocals are going to be incredible. It's like,
Not necessarily.
if you sing incredible,
yeah, right,
they're gonna be
exactly.
incredible.
Don't forget the bass. You got to forget the original.
Yeah, but I'm real curious about your process because doing some similar things to what you do, I'm always amazed at two things. One, how much we all work alike, and number two, how much we don't ever work alike.
Right.
Take me through the process of, you've just finished tracking the record, now you're going to mix it. During the tracking process, were you thinking about mixing it all, or were you thinking more about the production value and the energy in that, saving some of the creative decisions for the mix? And then take me from that stage to starting the mix.
All right. So for me, the tracking process and the mixing process is kind of all one thing. And I like to think that when I do mix a record, and sometimes I do and sometimes I don't, but if I'm producing and mixing the record, I like the record to be tracked and mixed at the same time, committing a lot of stuff. I'm a huge fan of commitment. So whether it's delays or reverbs or compression level or anything like that.
800 background vocals.
Committing as much as possible to tape, because I really want it to sound
When do
mixed.
you not commit? Well, give me a couple of examples when you wouldn't commit.
When I wouldn't commit, maybe if I'm just one part of the process, meaning if I'm not producing, mixing, and engineering, if I know I'm doing one part of this process and it has to be handed off to somebody else, maybe I won't commit as much because I don't want to paint somebody else into too much of a corner.
Okay.
Or if I don't feel that the artist is fully committed to their vision yet, I don't want to commit too hard because sometimes you feel that the artist doesn't totally know what they want yet, so you got to leave it a little open. Does that make sense?
100%. When you're instead of calling it the tracking stage, then let's call it the pre-mix stage. When you're in that stage, what percentage of that part of the process is influenced by your plan for the project? Let's say you're the producer, the mixer, the engineer. And what percentage of that gets influenced by what you're hearing and what the band wants? In other words, they come in with a preconception, you come in with a preconception. Take me at that moment where that decision has to be made about how it proceeds from there.
You're talking after the mixing?
No, in the pre-mix, in the tracking.
In the tracking, I don't totally understand.
Well, like when you start a project, you come in, everybody meets at the studio, you run through the song, you have a plan for the recording process. They have a plan for how they're going to go about it.
Right.
How does that coalesce and amplify the mix process? Who kind of wins that battle? The band always does, ultimately.
Right.
But what I'm trying to get at is, see, I'm given something to mix. I never get to influence what I'm being given.
Right.
Or rarely, but never is a good enough word. But you have control over the mix before you even start the mix.
I really like to look at it as there's no mixing. Like if you look at an old record, there's no mixer. There's whoever engineered the session, set the levels at the end and put a little reverb on it. And that's what I like mixing to be at my studios.
Okay.
Setting levels, maybe doing some rides. We don't even have pan pots on the board. It's either left, center, right, and there's just a pre and a post send. That's it. So it's really setting levels, maybe adding a little.
What board is that?
Reverb. It's just a little console we built, little passive like monitor section. It's super simple. And that's it. So the challenge to me is get all of the vibe and the energy and whatever your intention is in the recording. Make it happen on the floor. Again, I'm not saying what's right or wrong. I'm just saying what works for me. I look at conventional record making, or the way I perceive a lot of people make records these days, is they do all the tracking and then they send it to somebody else to try and recreate the vibe in mixing. That doesn't make sense to me at all. It's get the vibe on the floor, capture it, and there it is.
You got it.
You know what I mean? I like to think of myself more as a photographer than anything else. I'm gonna put everything in place, find my angle, and there's so much done in pre-production. Make sure the band's playing whatever they want to play properly, and kind of take a snapshot of it, and maybe move it around a little bit. But
is there anything that you can kind of impart to our viewers that are working in a bedroom at home with a little small computer? They're not really tracking at the same level you're tracking at, but what can they do in that process of getting it to tape and getting it to tape?
Getting it to hard drive?
Bringing it to hard drive and then setting themselves up so that they finish it themselves.
Yeah.
There's got to be a lesson there that they can learn from your process, right?
I think if anything, and I don't think it matters if you're in a studio or in a bedroom. And again, it's my take is just my take. It may work for some, it may not work for others.
We want your take. We like your record, so we want to sound like this.
But it's commitment. It's commitment. It's so even if you're recording to GarageBand, you want your drums to sound a certain way, commit that compression, commit the pre-delay, whatever it is you're doing, commit the level of the room mics, and bring it down to 2 tracks. And then when you're done, maybe you just have 8 faders in front of you on your GarageBand. You can, set your levels. I think for me, putting off decisions till later, procrastinating basically, is the way a lot of people record, and I don't enjoy it. I enjoy let's make a decision now, for better, for worse. Let's get it done. Not like, oh, there's 20 takes of vocals and we'll go through them later while we mix, or what. No, let's just get the vocal done now. If the singer doesn't feel like singing, let's cut the vocals tomorrow, but let's get a pass.
Yeah.
Let's get it done.
So I agree with you. There's not much I miss about tape, to be candid with you. But one thing I do miss is that there was a limited amount of space and you had to make commitments. You had to choose what went on those 24 tracks, or 16 or 8, and people forget. I mean, it's a cliche, but people still forget that Sgt. Pepper's by the Beatles was a 4-track recording, essentially.
Who are the Beatles?
They're those guys that a lot of your bands try to emulate. I hear it. In fact, you got one band that whoa, they were very close. but in a good way close, you know, kind of like the Eagles were close to CSNY.
Right.
But gosh, you scared me. I lost my complete train of thought. So I agree with the fact that there's something about deadlines for me that enhance my creativity.
Yeah.
Doesn't it force clarity?
Can I point out something you just said, which I think is super important, and you're the
Finally,
only
yeah.
other person I've ever heard say that. There's always a debate, at least that I hear, between digital and analog, and it's usually a sonic debate. And I don't think that's very important because I've heard amazing records made on analog and I've heard amazing records made on digital. I think both mediums are incredible. And you just said something about a limited amount of space on a tape machine. And that's where I find tape machines are so important with young bands because I like to use a 16-track 2-inch. And people ask all the time, well, what sounds better? And I'll say the same thing. They both sound great.
16-track heads at 15 IPS is hard to beat.
But even more important, you put a 16-track machine in front of people younger people that have never used that or maybe have grown up having unlimited tracks, it forces them into limitations.
They have to make decisions.
So it's like, guys, we have a certain amount of space. Guess what? You're going to learn how to arrange a song today because you don't know how to arrange because you've just been stacking.
Right.
I think that's the best part of a tape machine right now. Even though the sonics are great and it does sound a certain way, but you can get the job done in either medium. But it's that limitations of tracks that I think are really helpful.
I think the creative process is so fleeting and so ephemeral that boundaries are totally necessary. Like when I first started working in my own studio, it was a disaster. I mean, some of the first mixes went days because I didn't have to finish anything. And they didn't get any better after about 12 or 13 hours. They just got different. And probably worse, I would guess. And so now I've never in my life, but some of our guests talk about how they record after about 6 or 7 hours of mixing. They'll just do a little quick pass to see where they were. And then, man, sure enough, you go check your stuff. And about hour 10, it was really good. 12 was maybe a little better. And then you see a fall off in creativity, you know?
Right.
And with your perspective, you're not, because of the gear and stuff and your care for analog, that doesn't mean you're anti-digital.
Not at all.
Right.
I love digital. I use it all the time. Yeah, again, both things have their place. I think they're just both tools to make art, and they're both very valid mediums.
Yeah, exactly. They don't dominate the process. They should support it.
I like when things are used with intention, though. Sometimes, for instance, rock records are just made to Pro Tools without any thought going into it, and rock records sound great on Pro Tools, and like I said, many have been made that way. Or something's done on tape just because that's how somebody's used to working. I just like when there's an intention.
Gotcha. A focus, a clarity, a direction.
A meaning,
Yeah.
Man, I had a great question. It just went right out of my damn brain. When I first started working and I started engineering, I had to work at a lot of really small studios. Every once in a while I'd go to a big studio. So I'd run across at a little studio, I'd run across a little esoteric piece of equipment that colored my sound, and I didn't have to work, and the sound was great. And then I'd start relying on that, and then I go to the next studio, I don't have it. But I wanted that sound again. And so I would have to figure out another way to get that sound. And what I've noticed about the analog world is we choose equipment based on a couple of things. We choose it based on what it does and based on how it colors the sound.
Right.
Now, digital can duplicate pretty much what anything does, but it doesn't duplicate the sound. So I've noticed that guys that grow up using a Fairchild for the color of the sound, when they go to the digital world, they hate it.
Right.
Whereas guys like me that found another way to get that sound, because I could never afford a Fairchild and I could only work in a studio that had them once in a while.
Right.
I think that kind of, we're all kind of now learning how to get the things we wanted with the tools we have, and I think we're better off for it.
Right.
It's not a digital analog thing, because I use a lot of analog gear, but I use it not for the color, but I like the knobs.
Right. It's interesting. You're somebody like yourself who's been doing this and has so many great records under their belt and is so accomplished. You're going to have such a different perspective on digital than, let's say, a 20-year-old kid, because I work with a great engineer mixer named Cliff Norrell, and he's been around for a while too. And like yourself, you've worked on many different consoles, right?
Oh yeah.
So
I've built a few of my own.
Right. So you can pull up a session on a a digital workstation, and your ear has the history and the tonal memory to go, you know what, I want this to sound like it was mixed on an 80 series Neve. You'd probably know how to tweak things to make it sound like it was done on a Neve or an API. Whereas a lot of kids don't have that experience of spending enough time mixing on those things. So you can actually you can probably manipulate digital to sound like that. You know
Yeah,
what
I mean, not bragging on myself, but you do anything long enough, you should be good at it.
Right.
Quick question. Because you wear so many different hats, do you prefer one to the other, producer over engineer over songwriter, or does it all kind of morph into one process?
It morphs into one process. Sometimes I do all of them, sometimes I do one of them. I really try and just insert myself where I think I'm needed, you know, depending on the...
Sometimes it's smart to know how to get out of the way, isn't it?
Man, it seems like the smartest people, and I'm not including myself on this, but the smartest people I've seen in the business seem to know what not to do as opposed to what to do. Whether it's a mastering guy, a record label guy, the best guys in the world just know when to sit back and...
Which I think is great advice for our audience as they're learning.
Great advice from you.
For all of us, sometimes it's what you don't do is what makes the magic.
The first time I had noticed that, I used Bob Ludwig a lot for mastering. And Bob is a sweetheart, and we all know how amazing he is. He does very minute things, but somehow it just sounds incredible because he knows what not to do and then exactly what to do. Just a little notch.
When I was looking at your website, and I forget which band it was, but they had Ben Montench.
Yeah, Ben Mont's amazing.
And what he was doing seemed just so minimal, but I could see through the website it seemed magical. You know, it was just, he was just really exacting and just sort of knowing what to do and what not to do.
He's a great example of that. Like, Ben will play 2 notes on a song and make you cry.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, he just knows and you're just like,
oh my God.
How did he know how to do that?
I love that stuff. That's magic.
When you were working on the Black Keys, what was that like? Were they I don't want any personal things, but did they compose in the studio, or did they come to you with already complete stuff that you recorded?
Oh, they came in for just a couple days while they were in town to do a writing session, basically.
Oh, it was a writing session?
So they came in and wrote a couple songs, and we tracked them from top to bottom. I'm not even sure if they ended up using those songs on the record, but Dan and Pat were a lot of fun to work with.
I think there's something that we can share with our audience. When you recorded it, you didn't record it as a demo. You recorded it as a record, didn't you?
I always record things as a record, no matter what.
And I think that's what some of our audience might want to take from that is remember during the tape days, I always keep a roll of tape running because tape's the cheapest part of the process.
Right.
Record everything, guys, and record it perfect, because those moments, they don't come back twice, you know?
Yeah.
And when they're captured and the client goes, "Did you get that?" And you go, "I did." Oh, great. You know, it's just a great moment.
Loosen up your arms, sir. It's batter's box time.
Are we ready?
Yeah, so let's roll batter's box and put Kevin on the spot.
Okay, lead vocals.
What would I use on lead vocals? Who's the singer?
Anybody? We'll go with the male vocal.
Male vocal? What kind of music?
Oh gosh, he's trying to beat me. The kind of music you do.
Oh.
The kind of music I do, either a 44 or 77 RCA.
Oh, okay. What's your compressor of choice on a vocal?
Same person singing? Gosh, maybe LA3A.
Really?
Yeah.
Cool. Overheads.
On drums, I'm assuming. Gosh, I usually do mono, and that's either some sort of RCA ribbon mic, or like a KM54, something like that.
Okay. And your processing? Do you have a choice?
For that overhead, it depends on the style of music. If I was going to put a compressor on it, I might do something like an LA3 or even a 165A.
Oh, a DBX.
Yeah.
Rhythm guitar.
What kind of amp are we playing through?
Fender Twin.
And what kind of music are we doing?
Kind of music you do.
Kind of music I do. It depends on the...
I'm not going to give them a break.
These are such hard answers. Where they're playing on the neck, what the part is, but either it's a 57 or a KM54, or maybe if you want to add some sort of ribbon mic to that to blend it in a little bit.
I've never used a KM a 54 on a guitar amp. That's cool. And like, what's your choice in terms of like an EQ for that process?
An EQ for that process could be a lot of things. It's weird. In tracking, I don't use a ton of EQ. I usually have somebody put on headphones and go move the mics around and EQ that way, which is essentially the same thing.
Yeah. Okay. Let's go back to the drum kit. Your kick drum. What's the processing you like on that?
Processing on a kick drum, none. Just choosing the right microphone, probably not even EQing it, and just hitting tape at an appropriate level, and really using the tape to do some compression if you need it.
Anything different for the snare drum?
Snare drum, which I rarely will mic a snare drum, only if I think the track is going to get dense and you want a little lifeline there, would probably just be a 57. Those are amazing.
I'm going to come back to that because you threw me a curve that time. Bass.
Cabinet, DI, what are we doing?
Give me processing.
Processing. I like to record bass direct most of the time on the kind of stuff I do. But if we need an amplifier, I usually use a guitar amp. Don't really use bass amps in the studio. And that could be a lot of things. 67 is nice, little bigger sound. Yeah.
Let's switch a little bit. Like in the mix process, what processing would you think of first for a bass?
In the mix process for a bass, I probably wouldn't use anything. I rarely end up with bass players that need to really be compressed. And I have instruments in the studio that are usually picked out to be pretty even on the necks. You're not getting any notes really sticking out. So I don't think I'm really doing much processing on it.
And on your stereo mix bus, what do you tend to put on that?
Stereo mix bus will either be a pair of Pultecs or a pair of Longevin EQs. I never put compression on there. If I want it to sound a little compressed, I'll just hit it to the 1/4 inch a little harder. But I like to leave a lot of room for the mastering guy to make decisions.
This isn't a question, but I can't remember. Your Longevins, are they tube? They're not tube, are they?
No, they're solid state.
And what outboard gear do you use on a person with less than stellar ability as a performer?
And what are they doing? Are they singing, playing guitar?
An instrument.
An instrument, outboard gear on somebody that listens. That is an interesting question.
Our audience
I don't
doesn't
know.
need
You
that. They're all
stumped me.
stellar.
I don't know.
Okay, well, that's a valid answer.
don't
I don't know either, to be candid with you.
Yeah.
My choice would be to get another player. Let me look at my notes here. Piano, acoustic piano. Any processing on that?
Acoustic piano. Depends on what you're going for, obviously.
Elton John.
Elton John, depends. Maybe we'll put some tape slap on it if we want to do something like that. Most of the time I'll do mono piano recordings, unless it's going to be just a piano and a few other little things and we want it super wide. Then maybe I'll do stereo, but most of the time it'll just be mono. And man, there's so many mics that can do a good job. We like a C12 a lot of the time for that. Or
A pair?
A single C12. Wow. But a D19 is really nice
I'm gonna
too.
concede to you. I'm gonna give you the win, but I've got a question for you. So when you don't use a snare mic, where is the sound of the? Are you getting predominantly the sound of the snare through the overheads, through the room mics? Or,
Yeah, I like.
So you're going kind of John Bonham?
Not so John Bonham, just a mono overhead and a kick mic, and that's it.
That's John Bonham 100%.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
I didn't know.
That's all he did on a lot of those records.
Okay, yeah. I'm so fortunate to get to work with a lot of great drummers, and when you have somebody who's really good, I don't want to take. I want them to hear themselves with the mono overhead, and I want them to mix their own limbs. Too much close miking, and all of a sudden I'm taking away what they're doing.
Yeah, I'm probably
kind of
guilty
fighting
of that.
each other.
But good job on batter's box, by the way. I like I said, I concede defeat. But one thing I noticed during the process of asking these questions is, I had Justin Niebank on the show a while back, and he suggested that I try some mono reverbs. I did on a mix, and I loved it.
Yeah.
Am I because I'm a child and a victim simultaneously of the stereo world, am I automatically going to stereo because it's there? Do I need to use a little more mono in my processes?
I think that's true. I don't know if I can tell you to use more mono, but like we were talking about before, doing stuff with intent.
Yeah.
Just pay attention probably to what it sounds like. I think people do go to stereo reverbs and stereo a lot of things just by nature.
Yeah.
Try the mono stuff out. There's a lot of great things where you can have the dry signal hard panned and just have a mono reverb returning in the middle, and it starts flying stuff in like this, and it sounds really cool. I have a chamber I use all the time, and it's just mono.
A real chamber?
Oh yeah.
Can you describe that for our audience? Because they're not accustomed to that. They see the preset on their reverb, something chamber.
Yeah.
Describe how a chamber works, because you could create a chamber out of your bathroom.
Bathrooms are amazing chambers. It's just a room that has a nice reverb in it. There's a speaker on one end and a mic on the other end, and your send on your board or your Pro Tools or your digital rig goes to the speaker and the mic picks it up. And
you run that back into the system and treat it like a plug-in at that point in time.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people will just run reverbs like that. Compress your reverb when it comes back. EQ it. You can compression, especially compressing reverb when it comes back, does so many cool things, as you know.
Yeah, definitely. But I am experimenting more and more. Not experimenting. I'm using more and more mono and less. When everything's stereo, nothing's stereo.
Right.
So I'm bringing more than ever. I'm bringing a lot more stuff. If I have two stereo tracks, I might pan one like this and pan the other one like this instead of both of them like this. And
yeah.
And
we have to.
Mono's a good thing. We ought to.
Let's introduce our man GI, who's in the corner office. Time to get some
GI.
questions.
And take a hard look at GI's eye, Herb.
What happened? You tag him?
I don't know. I think it was.
Dave beat me up.
Oh man!
I think a little person beat his ass.
Assisting Dave has it's occupational hazards there. GI, what you got for us?
All right, this first one is for Kevin. Music Owns 048 wants to know, what's your approach to handling dynamics of a drum set if you don't have the best drummer? Would you recommend compression, and if so, what are your favorites?
Oh,
yeah.
Good question.
Compression is definitely a good choice. With drums and modern recording, anything that has a good fast recovery on it, I think there's a lot of options for that. You could do anything from 1176 to an LA3 to a DBX 160 or 165. And obviously the tube compressors, the older tube compressors like a Fairchild or a Gates are gonna have a lot slower of a release time, which will give you more of an effect. But yeah, I think some of the solid state ones are good for that. That's a good way to try and help that problem.
Good question.
And another question, this one is from Sean Ikea. I hear you're currently working on a new project with Red Gold Green. Can you elaborate a bit on that?
Yeah, Red Gold Green is a really amazing band from DC, and I would describe it as a cross between Bad Brains meets NERD. This has been a really fun record to make. It's a three-piece band. It's a guitar, bass, and a singer. And then we needed a drummer, and I called up Dave Grohl and had him come down and play drums on it, and so that was really incredible. And we had a couple other great guest musicians come in and play.
When you finish that, can you share it with us?
Yeah.
I'd love to.
Absolutely.
Are you taking any video of the process any time along the way?
Oh, all the time. We have a wonderful person who does all the EPKs for the band, so they
Can
film
you send
the
us a
whole
little
thing.
clip of something interesting?
Sure.
Oh, great.
Sure, yeah.
Go ahead,
This
Jeff.
next one is for either Dave or Kevin. Signal Flow Production wants to know, what is your favorite electric guitar chain and technique while mixing that you find yourself using often?
Well, being a guitar player and sitting in front of a cat that really knows, guitar players, I think we're a special breed because we come with a sound and a tone that we don't want dicked with in any way. So less is more for guitar. And if you do make a decision on something to add to guitar, make sure that it's very slight because guitar players are very picky about their tone. I like the Helios EQs, and UAD makes one of those. You saw it, GI. It's pretty spectacular. And then the classics, 1073 Neves, things that give you broad kind of EQs. Not real. You don't ever want little narrow peaks with a guitar. You want broad, smooth, very subtle things. And if the tone is somewhat distorted, it has a built-in compression. So don't compress that too much. If it's a cleaner tone, you might use a little more compression. And there again, the classics, a 160 with VUs, 1176, a Blue Stripe, 1176, one of your favorite compressors. That should get you started.
Okay. And this next one is again for Kevin from Jonathan Lee Chan. Do you still use the Grado headphones? And if so, which models are your favorite, and what's your process for using
I
them?
love Grados.
Oh, I use the RS1s. They're wonderful headphones, and I like to use them if I'm working in a room that I'm not familiar with, if I'm actually outside of my own studio and I don't have time to get to know the room. Those Grados are great. You can mix on those headphones, and they sound very consistent.
Yes. Dave.
I got a question. Is there a specific thing other than that? Like can you judge frequencies and EQs on headphones?
Yeah, I think I can.
Okay.
Yeah. Oddly enough, I use the earbuds a lot that come with my iPhone because I listen to them so much.
I like his too.
Yeah. Anything works if you're used to it, as you know. Anything's good if you know what you're hearing coming off of it.
The entry-level Grados, like I think it's 60i, they're like $80. Those are pretty decent too.
Are they good?
Yeah, the ones you like are kind of expensive.
I love them. Yeah, Eric Valentine turned me on to those years ago, and I love those headphones.
Yeah, Eric's our guy.
We love Eric. Absolutely. You have survived it.
Right on.
Are you unscathed? Are you okay?
I feel great.
Yeah?
Yeah.
We barely scratched the surface.
Can I say one thing?
You can
though?
say 2 or 3 things.
Okay. And I'm probably going to misquote him.
That's okay.
But I think I love what you guys are doing. The one thing I think is so important that I finally realized after collecting a lot of gear and using a lot of stuff is something that I think Chad Blake once said. And again, I might misquote it a little bit, but I think he said it's not the gear, it's the user's relationship to the gear, which is great. Yeah. Because I know guys that can make records out of, a piece of gum and a matchstick that will blow your mind, and then other guys that love using all the tube stuff and things like that. So there's no right or wrong. It's the person's relationship and what inspires
I'm going
them.
to modify that one last thing, if I can, Herb. I think that if you do this for a living and you have a true passion for it, you automatically just love gear. I mean,
Yes.
we just love gear. I mean, if you come to where I store my gear, I've just got mounds and mounds of gear that I just look at. I don't even use sometimes. It only becomes dangerous when the gear becomes a religion.
Right.
And like a guy that just turned vegan or just quit smoking, they're not the best people to be around because they're always proselytizing.
Very good. Word of the day.
I knew that'd get his attention.
We do word of the day. Thanks, man.
Thank you.
Will you come back?
Anytime.
I know we've barely scratched the surface. We have lots to go.
I could talk
and
for
plus, I'm going to take you up on the invitation to come by the studio.
Please do.
Is that cool?
Absolutely.
Love the music you're doing. Listen, guys, make sure you check his website out. Fairfax
I didn't
Recording.
get to talk about Panic at the Disco or Sinead
That's why we're gonna have him. That's why we're gonna have him back. Fairfax Recordings is get to that website.
Yeah, really
look it
good.
up. Great music. Think about it. Lumineers killing. Gaudier killing. Lots of stuff coming that's really hot. A true master. Thank you so much, Kevin.
Kevin,
Thank you.
Thank you, my friend.
Really our
Hope to
pleasure.
see you soon.
Yeah,
Dave, wrap it up. Say goodbye. Let's get out of here.
Okay. Man, that was, I haven't had that much fun since the pigs ate my little brother.
Wow.
We learned a lot today, guys. I'm going to go home and use a little more mono. I'm going to blow the dust off of some analog gear and just look at it. Might even use it. See you next week.